Welcome everyone for the final day of reading here at Govardhana Hill, day 22, 21? 21 or 22? Day 19? Really? Okay, whatever day it is, welcome back. And today we have a special schedule because it's Ekadashi. And on Ekadashi, the ashram doesn't serve prasadam until 12 noon. So we have an open morning this morning. Hopefully you have some water or whatever you need so you can be attentive. We're going to read for an hour right now and more this morning before prasadam. We need to. But at 9 o'clock we're going to have a group photo. It's a tradition that we take a photo outside this little kutir holding the books. Technically we won't be finished by then, but close enough. And then Devavrata Prabhu, who's headed up this project to organize everything, was out of his deep appreciation has personally gone and got gifts for all those who had helped to organize this and done various services. Right, Devavrata Prabhu? And he'll have an award ceremony then at about 9:10. Depends how long it takes us to take the picture. And after that we'll have a short break and then we'll come back and read some more before we break before prasadam. Then we'll come back later in the afternoon, and depends how far along we are, but let's see when we have to come back to finish. Does that sound reasonable to everybody? Yes. Okay. I first offer my respectful obeisances to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who brought the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita to us, and circa 1973, when I met Srila Prabhupada in a darshan with a few other Sankirtan devotees, and our temple president had read him our scores. Prabhupada looked at us and said, "You must also read my books." He said, I did not write these just for selling. I've written them for you to read, become pure devotees, and go back to Godhead. And I hope this yajna is pleasing to Srila Prabhupada, because from that day, even though I was a new devotee, I always knew that Prabhupada wanted us to read his books. And I've often thought, and already said, hopefully not ad nauseum, that Prabhupada had given so much energy to write the books that practically nobody in history has made such an effort to write books so enthusiastically within such a short amount of time to get them out to the world. I mean, Asimov, but his stuff was science fiction and it's all nonsense. But I've often thought, maybe, although we can't write such books, if we can match Prabhupada's enthusiasm in reading them and have some plan for that. So this whole marathon is some kind of a glimpse of putting effort into reading Prabhupada's books with that kind of enthusiasm. So we're starting up at Madhya Lila of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 24, and it's at text 327. If you would please manifest yourself within my heart and personally direct me in writing this book, then although I am low-born, I may hope to be able to write it. This is Sanatana Goswami talking about the Hari Bhakti Vilas. You can do this because you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead yourself, and whatever you direct is perfect. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, Whatever you want to do, you will be able to do correctly by Lord Krishna's favor. He will manifest the real purport. Sanatana Goswami was a pure devotee of Krishna. A pure devotee has no business other than serving Krishna. Consequently, Krishna is always ready to help him. The benediction was given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Sanatana Goswami, who was authorized to write Vaishnava Smriti. Sanatana Goswami was a pure devotee of the Lord, and through the blessings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was able to write the book perfectly. Thank you. Because you asked me for a synopsis, please hear these few indications. In the beginning, describe how one must take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. Your book should describe the characteristics of the bona fide guru and the bona fide disciple. Then, after accepting a spiritual master, one can be assured of the spiritual master's position. Similarly, the spiritual master can also be assured of the disciple's position. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, should be described as the worshipable object, and you should describe the Bij mantra for the worship of Krishna, as well as that for Rama or any other expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Padma Purana, the characteristics of the Guru, the bona fide spiritual master, have been described. Mahabhagavata Shreshto Brahmano Vaigurur Nurnam Sarvesham Eva Lokanam Asau Pujo Yata Hari Mahakula Prasutopi Sarva Yagneshu Dikshita Sahasra Shakana Yayi Nacha Guru Syad Avaishnava. The Guru must be situated on the topmost platform of devotional service. There are 3 classes of devotees, and the Guru must be accepted from the topmost class. The first class devotee is the spiritual master for all kinds of people. It is said, Guru Nirnam. The word Nirnam means of all human beings. The Guru is not limited to a particular group. It is stated in the Upadeshamrita of Rupa Goswami that a Guru is a Goswami, a controller of the senses and the mind. Such a Guru can accept disciples from all over the world. Pritivim sashishya. This is the test of the Guru. In India, there are many so-called Gurus, and they are limited to a certain district or a province. They do not even travel about India, yet they declare themselves to be Jagat Guru, the Guru of the whole world. Such cheating Gurus should not be accepted. Anyone can see how the bona fide spiritual master accepts disciples from all over the world. The Guru is a qualified Brahmana, therefore he knows Brahman and Parabrahman. He thus devotes his life for the service of Parabrahman. The bona fide spiritual master who accepts disciples from all over the world is also worshipped all over the world because of his qualities. Lokanam asau pujo yata hari. The people of the world worship him just as they worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All these honors are offered to him because he strictly follows the Brahminical principles and teaches these principles to his disciples. Such a person is called an acharya because he knows the principles of devotional service. He behaves in a way himself, and he behaves in that way himself, and he teaches his disciples to follow in his footsteps. Thus he is an acharya or jagat guru. Even though a person is born in a Brahminical family and is very expert in performing sacrifices, he cannot be accepted as a guru if he is not a strict Vaishnava. A guru is a Brahmana by qualification, and he can turn others into Brahmanas according to the Shastric principles of Brahminical qualification and Brahminical qualifications. Brahmanism is not a question of heredity. In Srimad Bhagavatam 7.11.35, Sri Narada Muni tells Maharaj Yudhishthir what a Brahmana is. He states that if Brahminical qualifications are observed in Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and even Shudras, one should accept them as Brahmanas. In this regard, Srila Sridhar Swami has commented, the most important criterion for declaring whether to deal with someone as a Brahmana or as a member of another Varna is the presence or absence of self-control and similar Brahminical qualities. We should not judge primarily according to superficial characteristics like birth. This is stated in the verse beginning with beginning Yasya, Bhagavatam 7:11-35. If the qualities of one varna are seen in someone born in another, he should be designated according to the varna of his qualities, not that of his birth. There is a similar statement made by Nilakanta, a commentator on the Mahabharata. Although one may be born in a Shudra family, if he is endowed with the Brahminical qualities, beginning with Shama, control of the mind, he is to be accepted as a Brahmana. Although one may be born in a Brahmana family, if he is endowed with the qualities, beginning with Kama, lust, he is to be considered a Shudra. No one should present himself as a Brahmana simply on the basis of being born in a Brahminical family. One must be qualified by the Brahminical qualities mentioned in the Shastras, particularly the Bhagavad Gita, 1842. Shamo damastapa shaucham shantir arjavam evacha jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahma karma svabhajam. Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which the Brahmanas work. Unless one is qualified with all these attributes, he cannot be accepted as a Brahmana. It is not a question of simply taking birth in a Brahmana family. In this regard, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur remarks that Narottam Das Thakur and Shyamananda Goswami, although not born in Brahmana families, are accepted as bona fide spiritual masters because they were Brahmanas by qualification. Personalities like Sri Ganga Narayan, Ramakrishna, and many others who were actually born in Brahmana families accepted Narottam Das Thakur and Shyamananda Goswami as their spiritual masters. The Mahabhagavata is one who decorates his body with tilak and whose name indicates him to be a servant of Krishna by the word Das. He is also initiated by a bona fide spiritual master and is expert in worshipping the deity, chanting mantras correctly, performing sacrifices, offering prayers to the Lord, and performing Sankirtan. He knows how to serve the Supreme Personality of God and how to respect a Vaishnava. When one has attained the topmost position of Mahabhagavata, he is to be accepted as a guru and worshipped exactly like Hari, the personality of Godhead. Only such a person is eligible to occupy the post of guru. However, if one is highly qualified but is not a Vaishnava, he cannot be accepted as a guru. One cannot be a Brahmana unless one is a Vaishnava. If one is a Vaishnava, he is already a Brahmana. If a guru is completely qualified as a Vaishnava, he must be accepted as a Brahmana even if he is not born in a Brahmana family. The caste system method of distinguishing a Brahmana by birth is not acceptable when applied to a bona fide spiritual master. A spiritual master is a qualified Brahmana and Acharya. If one is not a qualified Brahmana, he is not expert in studying the Vedic literatures. Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipano. Every Vaishnava is a spiritual master, and a spiritual master is automatically expert in Brahminical behavior. He also understands the Vedic Shastras. Similarly, a disciple's qualifications must be observed by the spiritual master before he is accepted as a disciple. In our Krishna consciousness movement, the requirement is that one must be prepared to give up the 4 pillars of sinful life: illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling. In Western countries especially, we first observe whether a potential disciple is prepared to follow the regulative principles. Then he is given the name of a Vaishnava servant and initiated to chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra at least 16 rounds daily. In this way, the disciple renders devotional service under the guidance of the spiritual master or his representative for at least 6 months to a year. He is then recommended for a second initiation, during which a sacred thread is offered and the disciple is accepted as a bona fide brahmana. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur introduced the system of giving the sacred thread to a bona fide Vaishnava, and we are following in his footsteps. The qualifications of a bona fide disciple are described in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.10.6 as follows. Amanya matsavo daksho nirmamo drida saurida asatwaro ta jignasur anasuyur amogavak. The disciple must have the following qualifications. He must give up interest in the material bodily conception. He must give up material lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness, and envy. He should be interested only in understanding the science of God, and he should be ready to consider all points in this matter. He should no longer think, I am this body, or this thing belongs to me. One must love the spiritual master with unflinching faith, and one must be very steady and fixed. The bona fide disciple should be inquisitive to understand transcendental subject matter. He must not search out faults among good qualities, and he should no longer be interested in material topics. His only interest should be Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As far as the mutual testing of the spiritual master and disciple is concerned, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that a bona fide disciple must be very inquisitive to understand the transcendental subject matter. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.3.21, Tasmad Gurum Prapadyeta Jignasu Shreya Uttamam. One who is inquisitive to understand the highest goal and benefit of life must approach a bona fide spiritual master and surrender unto him. A serious disciple must be alert when selecting a bona fide spiritual master. He must be sure that the spiritual master can deliver all the transcendental necessities. The spiritual master must observe how inquisitive the disciple is and how eager he is to understand the transcendental subject matter. The spiritual master should study the disciple's inquisitiveness for no less than 6 months or a year. A spiritual master should not be very anxious to accept a disciple because of his material opulences. Sometimes a big businessman or landlord may approach a spiritual master for initiation. Those who are materially interested are called vishayis, karmis, which indicates that they are very fond of sense gratification. Such vishayis sometimes approach a famous guru and ask to become a disciple just as a matter of fashion. Sometimes vishayis pose as disciples of a reputed spiritual master just to cover their activities and advertise themselves as advanced in spiritual knowledge. In other words, they want to attain material success. A spiritual master must be very careful in this regard. Such business is going on all over the world. The spiritual master does not accept a materially opulent disciple just to advertise the fact that he has such a big disciple. He knows that by associating with such Vishayi disciples, he may fall down. One who accepts a Vishayi disciple is not a bona fide spiritual master. Even if he is, his position may be damaged due to association with an unscrupulous Vishayi. If a so-called spiritual master accepts a disciple for his personal benefit or for material gain, the relationship between the spiritual master and the disciple turns into a material affair, and the spiritual master becomes like a smarta guru. There are many caste Goswamis who professionally create some disciples who do not care for them or their instructions. Such spiritual masters are satisfied simply to get some material benefits from their disciples. Such a relationship is condemned by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who calls such spiritual masters and disciples a societies of cheaters and the cheated. They are also called Baulas and Prakrita Sahajas. Their aim is to make the connection between the spiritual master and the disciple into a very cheap thing. They are not serious in wanting to understand spiritual life. The words Sevya Bhagavan in this verse of the Chaitanya Charitamrita are important. Bhagavan indicates the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu alone is worshipable. There is no need to worship demigods. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Kamaistais terjita jnana prapadyantenya devata tam tam niyamamastaya prakritya niyata swaya. Those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. It is also stated in the Skanda Purana, Vasudevam Purityajja Yonya Devam Upasate Samataram Purityajja Shwapachim Vandate Hisaha. A person who worships the demigods and gives up Lord Vasudeva. Person who worships the demigods and gives up Lord Vasudeva is like a man who gives up the protection of his mother for the shelter of a witch. It is also stated by Lord Kṛṣṇa in the Bhagavad Gita 9:23, Ye pyanya devata bhakta yajante sharayanvita te pimam evakonteya yajantya vidi purvakam. Those who are devotees of other gods and who worship them with faith actually worship only me, O son of Kunti, but they do so in a wrong way. Demigods are also living entities and parts and parcels of Krishna. Therefore, in one sense, one worships Krishna when one worships the demigods, but not in the proper way. There is a proper method to water a tree. One should water the root. But if one waters the leaves and branches instead, he is simply wasting his time. If one worships the demigods to the exclusion of Lord Vishnu, his rewards will only be material. As confirmed by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, Antavatu palam teesham tadbhavatyalpamedasam devan deva yajo yanti madbhakta yanti mamapi. Is there a hyphen after anta on your version? Yes. Men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. Demigod worship is meant for unintelligent men, because the benefits derived from demigod worship are all material, temporary and retractable. It is also stated in the Padma Purana, Yastu Narayanam Devam Brahma Rudra Nidaivatai Samatvenaiva Viksheta Sapashande Bhavedruvam. Whoever thinks Lord Vishnu and the demigods are on the same level is to be immediately considered a rogue as far as spiritual understanding is concerned. Therefore, there are three modes of nature in the material world, but when one is situated spiritually, he is above the material modes, even though he lives in the material world. As Lord Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita, Mamcha yovyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahmabhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service unfailing in all circumstances at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. In material consciousness, however, even one who is situated in the mode of goodness is susceptible to pollution by the modes of passion and ignorance. When the mode of goodness is mixed with the mode of passion, one worships sun god Vivaswan. When the mode of goodness is mixed with the mode of ignorance, one worships Ganapati or Ganesh. When the mode of passion is mixed with the mode of ignorance, one worships Durga or Kali, the external potency. When one is simply in the mode of ignorance, one becomes a devotee of Shiva, because Lord Shiva is the predominating deity of the mode of ignorance within this material world. However, when one is completely free from the influence of all the modes of material nature, one becomes a pure Vaishnava on the devotional platform. As Srila Rupa Goswami states in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmanyanavratam anakulyena krishnanu shilanam bhaktir uttama. One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. The position of Vishuddha Sattva, or is the transcendental position of uncontaminated goodness. On that platform, one can then understand Aradho Bhagavan Vrajesha Tanayastadama Vrindavanam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the son of Nanda Maharaj, is to be worshipped along with his transcendental abode, Vrindavan. The word Sarva Mantra Vicharana in this present verse of the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita means considering all different types of mantras. There are different kinds of mantras for different kinds of devotees. There is a mantra known as the Dvadashakshara mantra, composed of 12 syllables, and there is the mantra composed of 18 syllables. Similarly, there are the Nrsimha mantra, the Rama mantra, the Gopal mantra, and so on. Each and every mantra has its own spiritual significance. The spiritual master has to select a mantra for his disciple according to the disciple's ability to chant different mantras. Let's just take a few reflections about the purport or questions. Devavrata. Yeah, okay, we got a few inside. If you have outside, please register by raising your hand.
I appreciated this verse. Amanya Matsaro Daksho, qualifications of the disciple. Many times there's a discussion about who's my guru, who's qualified to be a guru. But I heard from Kṛṣṇa Maharaj a few months ago, he said, before we start thinking about the qualifications of the guru, first we should look at what is our qualification as a disciple, and then cultivate those qualities. And then when we position ourselves in such a way to be a sincere disciple, then Krishna feels more inclined to send a bona fide guru. And by cultivating these qualities through study, one will come to understand the qualifications of a bona fide guru through personal study.
Sadhu, sadhu. Mahendra, Prabhu.
Yeah, in that connection, it was mentioned that the disciple should be able to, in testing the guru's qualities, be able to ascertain if the guru is qualified to provide all the transcendental necessities. I was just wondering, to what extent the disciple, in nowadays, especially in the Western context, or even in the Eastern, you need enough knowledge and training to be able to have that discrimination, to understand if somebody is able to provide the transcendental necessities. And from the other side, from the side of Guru also, how a devotee accepts that position, because if we read the list of qualifications, Mahabhagavata, and full control of mind and senses, usually devotee is not considering that has these qualifications.
The transcendental necessities really have to do with being able to remove the doubts of a disciple. It's the main point. And it's an intuitive process, because for a disciple, Krishna comes in the form of a particular spiritual master locally. As Prabhupada said, spiritual master means a post and also means a person. And the way one may ascertain, and does ascertain, that one is getting one's spiritual necessities is by hearing. And generally, people in a bewildered state in this world, and they're also depressed, and they're also unlucky, and they're also always disturbed. But by hearing from a bona fide spiritual master, one starts to feel lucky again. One comes out of depression. One feels optimistic. And it's that upliftment that generally informs a person or inspires a person to say, oh, I'm feeling improved by listening here. And whether it's the Diksha Guru or Shiksha Guru, it's like, I'm getting enlivened by this. This is the good old spiritual influence that I've always been looking for, and that I've maybe had before, now I'm feeling again, whatever it may be. But it's visceral, and it's internalized by a person, by hearing. And all necessities are fulfilled by hearing. I mean, even on a material platform, as Prabhupada points out in the third canto of the Bhagavatam, what to speak of spiritually. So if the quality of the person is coming through in their talks, in their speech, and the person's feeling uplifted, then that fulfills that requirement that should be able to deliver the necessities, to remove the doubts. And if you look carefully at this passage about the Mahabhagavata, you'll be surprised. In fact, it's used as a counter to those who opine that the way of becoming a guru requires such a lofty conception that only Nityananda Prabhu or maybe Queen Kunti could possibly initiate anybody or be involved in the process. But listen what Prabhupada says here. This is actually a famous passage for the definition of Mahabhagavata. Let's listen to it again. Here, way back in the beginning, he says, the Mahabhagavata is one who decorates his body with tilak and whose name indicates him to be a servant of Krishna by the word das. Okay? He is also initiated by a bona fide spiritual master and is expert in worshipping the deity, possible, chanting mantras correctly, performing sacrifices, offering prayers to the Lord, and performing Sankirtan. He knows how to serve the Supreme Personality of God and how to respect the Vaishnava. When one has attained the topmost position of Mahabhagavat, he is to be accepted as a guru. What's the definition of Mahabhagavat? Go back to the beginning of the paragraph. And as we've already been discussing, there are various ways of talking about categories of advancement, and they vary from one place to the next. But here's one very straightforward. Very practically, the person can deliver necessities in form of training for deity worship. You do like this, not like that. And the person can give you mantras because he or she has learned the mantras and knows how to pass them on to you and has chanted them and so forth. So don't you find that to be a slightly innocuous definition of a Mahabhagavat compared to what most people think of when you say Mahabhagavat, and they go like, okay, I gotta go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are people who come up with quotes like Prabhupada mentions in the lecture, Guru means coming from Krishna Loka, things like that, and then they focus on this. And
well, if you take it from Prabhupada, we all came from Krishna Loka.
I was referring also to the devotee's internal state of, thinking of qualification, whether he's feeling under the modes and still, not completely.
Yeah, well, Prabhupada describes the internal workings of a person who might take on such a service, and he says the person never considers that what to speak of Mahabhagavat, to use such a phrase, doesn't even consider himself to be a spiritual master. He sees that I'm the servant of all these people who my spiritual master has sent me to train. And somebody say, are you a guru? It's like, I'm a servant of these people. If some people call me guru, that's their business, but it's not my business. My business is to train people how to participate in the Sankirtan movement as per the instructions of my spiritual master in his mood and method, and to carry on the disciplic succession. So there's never a time when you're going to ask, okay, are you an Uttama Adhikari? And just by very definition, people who are advanced say, like, I'm nothing. I heard Prabhupada this morning, he was talking about the mission and what it means to be involved in devotional service, and he said, I did nothing until I was 70. And that's how he was really feeling, that I did nothing until I was 70. And then said, I followed the order of my spiritual master. I took a chance after that, and then I was able to do a little something. And he said, then everyone should do that. So, commonsensical, it's not out of the reach of possibility for anyone. Krame, anyone can step by step rise to the occasion and take on more and more service and also become an Uttama Adhikari. How? By chanting Hare Krishna without offense, period. Full stop. That's the whole thing.
Just a quote from Prabhupada I listened recently about the mood of spiritual master. He was referring to Ishvara Puri, being so happy that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu attained the success by chanting. So Prabhupada says the spiritual master is so happy to see the disciple being successful, and he thinks, I'm a nonsense, but this boy is so advanced. So that was an example.
What a great quote. Case in point. Okay, a couple more, and then we go into the outside people's party, and then we're going to move on.
Hare Krishna. Maharaji, this is again with 330 only. Guru Lakshana, Shishya Lakshana, Dohara Pariksha. So, in the Prem Vilas, although Loknath Goswami was directly ordered by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to initiate Narottam Das Thakur, and Narottam Das Thakur also was told by Mahaprabhu that you should take initiation from Loknath Goswami. But when Narottam Das Thakur approached Loknath Goswami, he said, I will test you for 1 or 2 years, I think. And the whole details are given there. So how this has to be practically implemented, because in the purport, Prabhupada is very clearly saying that the spiritual master should observe very carefully whether the disciple is inquisitive in understanding the transcendental subject matter.
Well, Prabhupada took an institutional approach. He couldn't vet every disciple, and therefore he depended on others to vet them. And therefore he writes in his books that he accepts the recommendation of the temple president. That's in his purport. When we read about it in his Purashcharana, remember that verse? The Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that you don't need anything to chant Hare Krishna. And then Jiva Goswami says, no, yeah, you do. And then Prabhupada talks about our Purashcharana means that I take the recommendation of the temple president, the local person. So there has to be some oversight in that. Prabhupada himself was recommended to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in Allahabad. He had been such a spiritual force there. Everyone said, where'd this person come from? He does everything. He can play mridanga, harmonium, he gives class, the whole thing. And when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta came there, they recommended him heartily. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta also said, I marked him because he likes to hear. That's that pastime with Sheshashayi Vishnu. He does not go away, he likes to hear. But that was incidental. It wasn't that he went, or Prabhupada went and stayed with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and they had this one-to-one thing. So that Prabhupada carried that forward, the same as the Gaudiya Math had a slightly institutional way of vetting people through others that were there. I'm not saying that that's the only way, but that's one of the ways that it's done. But there's also, it's important for there to be an understanding, as it's mentioned in the first canto, 10th canto, 2nd chapter, in the appearance of Lord Krishna, when Krishna comes from the mind and heart of Vasudeva to the mind and heart of Devaki, then one of our acharyas, I'm trying to remember who it was, Viraraghava, or one of the acharyas says, this is Diksha. It's a heart-to-heart process, and it's also transcendental. It shouldn't be done based just on an institutional consideration. Prabhupada also points out in the first chapter of the Adi Lila. But there should be a sense of relationship. And then that I already talked about, when a person hears from somebody, and also I find that much of it has to do with their association with disciples of the spiritual master. That's why sanghas tend to grow exponentially, because the more disciples there are, then the more people get attached to the disciples of a guru and then say, like, whoever this guy's following, I'm going to follow this guy. Or they have a place like, my Srivas Pandit told me once why he selected Srila Radhanath Maharaj as his spiritual master. He said he went to Chopati. He said, all right, whoever made this, I'm going to follow. That's my spiritual master. So those are they're different considerations, but it's a transcendental process that's arranged by Krishna. And I don't know, I can't even remember the question I'm answering, but I hope it was sufficient. Okay, let's see from the outside People's Party. Vaishnavi. And then we have Nitya Tarangani. And I'm glad more devotees are coming in, because there's a photograph that's imminent. And we don't have to Photoshop you in. Alo. Alo. Anything? What happened? The mic's not working? There you go.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, in my little world, one of the main grievances that I encounter from newer devotees is that they say, well, my spiritual master or that spiritual master, they have so many followers, I don't have the chance for personal inquiry or a personal exchange, and there's sort of a sadness about that sometimes. And I was just wondering what would be your input on that.
Try writing a letter. Not an email, but a letter, and see what happens.
Well, some of these gurus really have so many disciples.
No, some are expert too. I know that. And they're different. Everyone's different, the way they interact with people. Like Prabhupāda Maharaj answers all of his emails. I don't know how he does it and keeps up his schedule of traveling constantly, but he answers everybody.
Because in the verse it said the Guru gives all transcendental necessities, and there's just sort of this...
Well, the Guru really doesn't have to... The Guru can just be a Guru and be a great devotee. And then it's up to the disciple to take advantage of the Guru. It's like if you have a cow, you have to learn how to milk it. You can't say, why doesn't it come in the kitchen here and milk herself and then put the milk in the refrigerator for me? Because, I mean, if a Guru, let's just say there's somebody he's not so outwardly focused, they do preach, they do travel, but they're more internal, and but they're preaching. A disciple could, especially in this day and age, take full advantage of hearing from them, from listening to their talks and so forth, and going to where they are. Let's say if they have a yatra or something like that, they can show up. It's like, well, why doesn't he come to my house? Well, Krishna can do that. He went to see Bahalashva and Shrudadev because he's the Supreme Personality of God and he can expand himself. But little human gurus have a problem expanding themselves, except for setting an example so that other people can follow it. I mean, that would be okay too, probably. It's just that a disciple has to take advantage. You wanted to add something to that?
No, I agree with what you're saying, actually.
Good.
That's what I would answer. I would say that the most important thing is to hear, and the hearing process is so available to us in so many different ways.
Yeah, take advantage. Like we're taking advantage of Prabhupāda's association. Did he have time to talk to everybody? No, he had a small group that he dealt with, the generals, and then they would deal with their leaders, and it fanned out throughout ISKCON. But he made himself fully available through his books, of which we're taking advantage of right now. this is the best association with Prabhupada as stated by himself. He said, if you want to know everything I had to say, I said it all in my books. Therefore, on my departure even, he said, that you'll go on taking advantage of this and have my association. I feel like we've been getting Prabhupada's association. When I wake up in the morning, all I'm thinking about is what did Prabhupada say over the last 20 days? And it's very direct. You couldn't get this kind of association with Prabhupada if you tried at that time, because you go in and ask him a question, he'd say, I'm putting it in my book. You just wait till it comes out, and then you can have direct access to me through my book. Yeah, thank you very much for your point and for... Do you want to add something? Okay, there's more people outside, but... Okay, go ahead.
Is there potentially a need to educate devotees with being conscientious of having realistic expectations with the person that they're taking shelter of?
Everyone needs training in this world. Prabhupada said it earlier, and having realistic expectations is very helpful in not becoming disappointed. And that's something I think in ISKCON they've tried to do. Institutionally, there's the IDC and things like that. I've asked devotees, how did you like it? And most people say, yeah, it really helped me. It taught me a lot of things I didn't know. And then also, there were a couple of devotees visiting here from Vrindavan, and one of them was taking a course called Sadachar. I didn't know that was available. But I asked how it was, what they were teaching, and it sounded great. We have a program called Bhakti Jumpstart besides the IDC, where we try to build some context for what initiation is, and I think it's really helpful when devotees have a clear understanding of what they can expect. And it's not like you're getting a personal life coach necessarily that you can call on a hotline 24 hours a day. I mean, it could be like that, but it's generally not what's going to happen. So yes, good to set good expectations, realistic expectations.
Can I ask just one other thing?
Okay.
I've heard this statement, and I don't know if it's true, that apparently Srila Prabhupada said that his only regret was in establishing this worldwide society that he didn't have time to personally train his disciples. Did he make that statement?
I don't know. I'm not familiar with it. Okay, but I'm sure, anyone might have that. You can see why Prabhupada might have it. He was in a rush, and he had to do everything he could. There was a lot of things he said that he wished he had time to do. Like make some brahmanas before he handed over the deities in Australia. He just said, okay, Kṛṣṇa, you train them. I gotta go. Spiritual necessities. Kṛṣṇa, you can take over from here. Okay, who's next?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Vaishnavi.
In text 330, it says, every Vaishnava is a spiritual master, and a spiritual master is automatically expert in Brahmanical behavior. He also understands the Vedic Shastras. I was just reflecting, because we did Bhakti Shastri back home at New Govardhana, and in Nectar of Devotion, it cautions us that we should be very careful that we don't try to replace when we follow in the footsteps of devotees. So even on practical sense, when a devotee is inspired by another devotee, but then they think sometimes externally they may have achieved the same things, they're leading Guru Puja, they second initiated, or externally they may do the Brahmanical qualities, but internally, if that cultivation for all of us, if we don't cultivate that internal, the etiquette, the Vaishnava etiquette, and that every devotee is unique, we don't need to have some prominence to be recognized by Krishna, because if we genuine opportunity for service does come, because I've observed also in the DT department different personalities, and sometimes they try to push themselves to do certain services, and then we see just to, they create disturbance within the community, so just give them that service. But even doing so-called external high-level service of dressing Radha Krishna, we can also observe that it's not about externally achieving those. It's so much an internal process, because we observe maybe they even may dress even Radha Krishna deities, and maybe once a week, once a fortnight, they can't even make it on time, and the quality of the service, you can observe it. So just devotees keep a respectful distance, but we are actually cheating ourselves, as we were also reading from Chaitanya Charitamrita, that we only cheat ourselves by doing that. So it's so important for all of us to be reminded to cultivate that internal mood. Externally it may or may not be there, but internally it's so important. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your insightful remarks. Okay, Nitya Tarangani.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. We have 24 devotees watching online.
Hare Hare.
And there are 2 reflections. The first reflection is from Vaikunta Nayak Prabhu. He's saying, I liked this point, quote, the spiritual master does not accept a materially opulent disciple just to advertise the fact that he has such a big disciple. I heard that one rich landlord approached Gaur Kishore Das Babaji to become his disciple, and Babaji Maharaj asked to tear off his return ticket and stay there with him. And immediately the landlord ran away from that place.
Nice, good point.
The next reflection is from Apara Gaurangi Mataji. She's saying, really loved this session and the discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your comment, Apara Gaurangi and Vaikunta Nayaka and everyone else. We have a few more verses at our disposal. They're available. You should discuss the qualifications necessary for receiving a mantra, the perfection of the mantra, the purification of the mantra, initiation, morning duties, remembrance of the Supreme Lord, cleanliness and washing the mouth and other parts of the body. The following injunction is given in the Hari Bhakti Vilas regarding mantra adhikari, the qualification for receiving mantra initiation. Tantrikeshu cha mantreshu dikshayam yoshitam api sadvinam adhikarosti sudradinam cha sadhyam. Shudras and women who are chaste and sincerely interested in understanding the absolute truth are qualified to be initiated with the Pancharatrik mantras. This is confirmed by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. O son of Pritha, those who take shelter of me, though they be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas, merchants, and Shudras, can attain the supreme destination. If one actually wants to serve Krishna, it doesn't matter whether one is a Shudra, Vaishya, or even a woman. If one is sincerely eager to chant the Hare Krishna mantra or Diksha mantra, one is qualified to be initiated according to the Pancharatrik process. However, according to the Vedic principles, only a Brahmana who is fully engaged in his occupational duties can be initiated. Shudras and women are not admitted to a Vaidika initiation unless one is fit. According to the estimation of the spiritual master, one cannot accept a mantra from a Pancharatrik Vidhi or the Vaidika Vidhi. When one is fit to accept the mantra, one is initiated by the Pancharatrik Vidhi or the Vaidika Vidhi. In any case, the result is the same. Regarding mantra siddhyadi sadhana, the efficacy of the mantra, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives 16 divisions which are confirmed in the Hari Bhakti Vilas. Siddha Siddhya Susiddhari Kramaj Geyo Vichakshana. The 16 divisions are grouped under 4 principles: Siddha, Sadhya, Susiddha, and Ari. The 4 principles are divided further: Siddha Siddha, Siddha Sadhya, Siddha Susiddha, Siddhi Ari, Sadhya, Siddha, Sarva Sadhya, Sadhya Susiddha, Sadhya Ari, Susiddha Siddha, Susiddha Sadhya, Susiddha Susiddha, Susiddha Ari, Ari Siddha, Ari Sadhya, Ari Susiddha, and Ari Ari. Those who are initiated with the 18-syllable mantra do not need to consider the above-mentioned 16 divisions. As enjoined in the Hari Bhakti Vilas, there is shodhana, or purification of the mantra, but there is no such consideration for the Krishna mantra. The Krishna mantra is so strong that there is no question of shodhana. As far as Diksha is concerned, one should consult Madhya Lila. That's a great verse, can mark that, because in the modern discussion of taking up chanting of mantra, and why exclusively chant one mantra rather than others, the consideration of its strength, as is mentioned here, is helpful. You want a strong mantra or a little weak mantra? I want the strongest thing you got. All right, here it is, the Hare Krishna mantra. As far as Diksha is concerned, one should consult Madhya Lila 15.108. On the whole, when a person is initiated according to the Panchatrik Vidhi, he has already attained the position of a Brahmana. This is enjoined in the Hari Bhakti Vilas. Yata kanchana tanyati kamsyam rasa vidanata tata diksha vidanena dvijatvam jayate nrinam. As bell metal can be turned into gold when treated with mercury, a disciple initiated by a bona fide guru immediately attains the position of a Brahmana. As far as the time of Diksha initiation is concerned, everything depends on the position of the guru. As soon as a bona fide guru is received by chance or by a program, one should immediately take the opportunity to receive initiation. In the book called Tattvasagara, it is stated, if by chance one gets a Sadguru, it doesn't matter whether one is in the temple or the forest. If the Sadguru, the bona fide spiritual master, agrees, one can be initiated immediately without waiting for a suitable time or place. Concerning Prata Smriti, remembrance of the Lord in the morning, in the early morning hours, known as Brahma Muhurta, one should get up and immediately chant the Hare Krishna mantra, or at least Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. In this way, one should remember Krishna. Some shlokas or prayers should also be chanted. By chanting, one immediately becomes auspicious and transcendental to the infection of mature qualities. Actually, one has to chant and remember Lord Krishna 24 hours daily, or as much as possible. Smarta vyasa tatam vishnur vismartavyo najatu chit. Sarve vidhi nashedha sur etayor eva kinkara. Krishna is the origin of Lord Vishnu. He should always be remembered and never forgotten at any time. All the rules and prohibitions mentioned in the Shastras should be the servants of these two principles. This is a quotation from the Padma Purana, from the portion called Brihat Sahasranam Stotra. The word Prata Kritya in the present verse of the Chaitanya Charitamrita means that one should evacuate regularly in the morning and then cleanse himself by taking bath. One has to gargle, achmana, and brush his teeth, danta dhavana. He should do this either with twigs or a toothbrush, whatever is available. This will purify the mouth. Then one should take his bath. Actually, householders and vanaprasthas should bathe 2 times a day. A sannyasi should bathe 3 times a day, and a brahmachari may take only 1 bath a day. Whenever one is not able to take a bath in water, he can bathe by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. One also has to perform his sandhyadi vandana. That is, one has to chant his Gayatri mantras 3 times daily, morning, noon, and evening. You should describe... Now, we're coming close to the time where we're going to take a photo. Is anybody missing out there that you notice that needs to be summoned so they don't miss the picture? and we don't have to Photoshop them in? Is everyone there? You should describe how in the morning one should regularly brush his teeth, take his bath, offer prayers to the Lord, and offer obeisances to the spiritual master. You should also describe how one should render service to the spiritual master and paint one's body in 12 places with Urva Pundra, tilak, as well as how one should stamp one's body with the holy names of the Lord or the symbols of the Lord, such as the disc and club. After this, you should describe how one should decorate his body with gopi chandan, wear neck beads, collect tulsi leaves from the tulsi tree, cleanse his cloth and the altar, cleanse his own house or apartment, and go to the temple and ring the bell just to draw the attention of Lord Krishna. Also describe deity worship, wherein one should offer food to Krishna at least 5 times daily, and in due time place him on a bed. You should also describe the process for offering artik and the worship of the Lord according to the list of 5, 16, and 50 ingredients. Can we take the photo now? Who's in charge? Devavrata, or can we take the photo now? You see anybody missing out there? Who's really going to regret it? Well, say what Madhavananda says. If you're not here, raise your hand. Yeah? Okay, some people, we made an announcement on the group, so I guess some people don't want to be in the picture. Okay, shall we go out and try? We're coming out, and let's see where we can assemble to take a photograph.